Hey everybody, Jewel back with another super cool astrology video, or in this case maybe a non-astrology video, because I wanted to talk a little bit about the actual non-validity of astrology and why it actually, when you understand the birth chart and you understand what it describes, and you understand the nature of the reality that springs from the beliefs that are found on the birth chart, why astrology is ultimately not valid or something that you even need to worry about. So the birth chart is very much a map of our early conditioning, a map of our the some amounts of karma that we may or may not have brought into our incarnation, and describes how we responded to our early situations. So it's very much our conditioning and our beliefs that result out of that conditioning, and from that come our values, because values spring out of our beliefs and are very much a product of the culture that we find ourselves in and the time and the place that we happen to be born into, and what we know of our three-dimensional world. And that very much informs what we come to understand ourselves to be as we learn and grow and experience more of this three-dimensional world. So ultimately, the birth chart is a map of our beliefs, good and bad, and a map of our self-imposed limitations, our conscious thoughts, identities, repressed experiences, thoughts, feelings. And so when we get to know the birth chart really, really well, what we're doing is we are connecting and really untangling those difficult aspects within our own personalities, which is our identity and our ego. So, the ego is specifically related to Sun and Mars, but it is, in a larger sense, the entirety of the birth chart, because it is the belief of what I am, and that is very much coming from what I have experienced as, a born human being. So, when we understand that the birth chart is something that we can actually rise above, it really opens up the possibilities of what we can, the kind of joy or the kind of experiences that we can undergo in this lifetime. So I teach astrology on two levels. And the level that you watch videos about is very much on the level of teaching you how to connect the different aspects in your birth chart that may be difficult, so you're not getting in your way anymore. You're more connected to your feelings. That means your being, and then following that, so we have more of a sense of being led by that better guide or higher power, which is your own true self, and which is that awareness behind the birth chart, and to enhance your good aspects so you can do more with that and take that farther, so you can see more satisfaction and happiness, joy. You can bring the kind of things into your life that you want. So it's very much how to make your identity and your personality work for you and in the society and among the experiences that you want to have. There is another way to use the birth chart, however. And this is the way that allows you to become so well acquainted with your identity and your ego, and to get beyond the hurts, the repressions, the difficulties that our personalities and our identities can really get hung up on which keeps us from being able to be connected to self. And when we do start to recede from the birth chart, that means to fall into the ultimate awareness of what we really are, we can know what and when the mind or the identity or the ego is working. We can point to different areas and say, I know where that comes from. That comes from this aspect, and that's from this experience. And it's a lot, it's easy to track it, to trace, to find it, to catch it. So when we recede from the birth chart and understand the awareness is what we are, it is that thing that knows and watches our thoughts, our feelings come and go, which we can't be because those come and go and we are still here. We can't be our beliefs because those can change, and that is a process of what we have added to what we really are. So really it's a process of deconstruction and of understanding that there's nothing that you need to become when you're using astrology at this level, which is really rising above astrology. It's a process of understanding that you already are. There's nothing that you need to do. There's no hoops you need to jump through. There's no bar you need to reach. There's no prophecies you need to follow. It is a process of understanding that you are already perfectly whole and complete just as you are, and letting go of those expectations, those attachments to outcomes, those the things that our identity does to us, tells us that we want, releasing those wants, which we are attached to. It creates these miracles in your life because suffering is not a problem when we get to this level. And, we'll fluctuate in and out of this, but it's this process. It's not even a process, because a process is something that, is very mercurial. It's the mind. It is a non-process. It's a being and a non-doing and a non-expectation. And the birth chart is not like that. It's very much different, where it has this set of goals and rules and thoughts and opinions, and it's letting all of that go and learning to exist in the complete connectedness of what we truly, truly are, which is definitely not what we think we are, which is the birth chart. So there is a way to get beyond gravity, to get beyond being subject to karma, because you are not creating it as you were before, because the birth chart is a map of the gravity that was in place when you came into three-dimensional being. And gravity implies resistance. It is a falling into a non-resistance, which is a coming away from those belief systems or those expectations, those attachments, where we can experience this deeply moving and intimate interconnectedness, because the walls of our birth charts have been dissolved. So it's not about this process of, just receding into Neptunian disillusion, or, melting into something without connecting with our real state of understanding what our feelings are, because those feelings, that is the first step there towards getting beyond the feelings. So it's a very interesting and complex, but not complex way of choosing to live, where the issues and the laws of the birth chart do not apply. And we will always have a personality. There will always be a way that our higher self, or our ultimate, more true self, when we get to being connected to that and letting that really shine through, that will always have a way of being. And there will be issues in our personalities, even if we aren't connected to them, that we will need to work out. The birth chart is excellent for that, for seeing that, for pinpointing those things. So there's this interesting, way of using astrology to not be subject to astrology. And it's, I guess I might be the only astrologer out there that doesn't really think that astrology is something that we have to be worried about at all, because it isn't something that we are bound by. So I hope this made sense and wasn't too confusing. You can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com. You can find me on Facebook at Truth and Aspect Astrology, where I do daily weather forecasting, which doesn't necessarily have to apply to you, and birthday descriptions, which also don't necessarily have to apply to you. And yes, I do private consultation, and I will be back super soon with more super cool videos. Bye-bye.